Here's another idea that I fully aware that I should probably keep to myself. Um, and what I mean by that is that it's a dumb idea. It's a dumb idea, but it's what I think is also an interesting idea. So anyway, the dumb idea is not really an idea; it's a question. A question that came to my mind. I don't know when, some time ago, and it seemed like an interesting question to me, and I think the question has no it doesn't the question okay, the question is this: in time, how big is the present, the now? And what I mean by that is, let's say the past is 15 billion years big, right? The future is, I guess, supposedly infinite, right? But how big is the present? That point right there represents the present. And the two possible answers that I can think of, the only two possible answers I can think of, is that it's either is that the present is instantaneous. But that doesn't really make sense, because how are we able to perceive how if it's instantaneous, how are we able to perceive it? Other things that are not instantaneous, we're not able to perceive. Like, for example, when you turn the light switch on, light is not instantaneous. Light is it's pretty fast, but it's not instantaneously. But we're not able to perceive the light coming from the light bulb and filling up the room, right? So if the now, the present, is instantaneous, how are we able to perceive it? But even the other answer is that the now is a specific amount of time, a very small amount of time. Let's say millions of a second, right? Maybe the now is just the amount of time it takes to say the word now. But it's not, right? It's by the time you're done saying the word, even though it's such a short word, by the time you're done saying it, all or most of the word is in the past. So how big is the present? How big is the now? Maybe it's the wrong question, right? I don't know. So anyway, so how and me trying to figure this out, I was trying to also think of a way. How do we describe the now? How would what would be the definition of now? And the best answer to that I could come up with is that the now is the moment in time that converts the infinite possibilities of the future, infinite unpredictable possibilities in the future, into a static, unchangeable past. If the now is a thing, the now is a pretty. If the present is a thing, the present is a pretty powerful thing, because it's taking all infinite possibilities and converting them into one thing. This right here would be the now, and over here would be the past, and this over here is the future. So the now, it's extremely powerful. It converts the infinite possible, unpredictable possibilities of the future that we call the future into a static, unchangeable, inaccessible past. So anyways, this over here is the present. That's an S. So even though I don't, it's even though I think the question, how big is the present, is maybe a dumb question, and maybe a question that cannot be answered, or at least by us right now, I still think it's an interesting question. The way I think scientists would draw, I drew the timeline as an upside down V to accentuate, to point out the present, to how pointy it would be, or how big the present would be, right? The past being the upward slope and the future being the downward slope. So anyway, so I think most scientists would describe the timeline as a straight line, with the past being at the beginning, the present somewhere in the middle, and the future in front. And I think the way they would describe the present is as a mental construct. I don't know, that the mind or the brain creates the present. I think. I have no idea. So anyway, so consciousness, instead of writing the whole word, I'm gonna represent it with a brain. That's supposed to be a brain, okay? And one of my questions about the now, the present, is when does our current consciousness, our now consciousness, separate from past consciousness? How do we differentiate? I mean, is there some sort of a cutoff point, maybe millions of a second in the past, from our current fully aware now consciousness, to differentiate it from their past consciousness? Maybe even like millions of a second. What second in the past, in time, what divides them? What makes them separate? What makes our present consciousness separate to our past consciousness? Okay, so and I would say most scientists, and they would be correct, right, that our memories are our connections. Our memories are our connections to our past consciousness, right? But what I'm interested in is what differentiates our current now consciousness from our past consciousness. How do they separate? How they're the same thing, right? Their consciousness, but it's in separate times. So okay, so here is an idea, right? Here's a crazy idea that I know is wrong, but I still like the idea. It's an interesting idea. Current scientists right now, I'm sure I haven't read about it or seen documentaries, but I'm sure they assume, or they think, and have good reason to think this, that our brain stores memories the same way a hard drive in a computer stores data. That somewhere within our brain, somewhere in the back, maybe, I don't know where, it stores images, video, sound, feelings, everything is stored somewhere in our brain, right? Okay, so what if, instead of our brain storing memories within it, what if memories are actual connections through time to previous consciousness? I know it's a crazy idea. It goes along with my idea or my question of how big is the present. It's not instantaneous. It doesn't make sense that it would be instantaneous, but it also doesn't make sense that the now is a certain amount of time. Like I said earlier, before you finish saying the word now, most of the word is in the past. By the time you finish saying it, all of it is in the past. So the present doesn't seem to have time. In other words, it's instantaneous. But how would we be able to perceive that? Well, the way we might be able to perceive it is that our consciousness is not set strictly in the now. That it's a little bit wider than just an instant in time. That maybe our consciousness is connected to previous consciousness through what we call memories. Memories is data coming from previous consciousness a millionth of a second in the past, or even a year in the past. They'll both be the same. They're connections through time. Memories are connections through times to previous consciousness. I know it's a crazy idea. And the next step, which is even more crazier, would be that it would be two-way communication, where we would be able to communicate with future consciousness. If psychics are real, that's how they would do it, right? Obviously, they're not real, or at least nobody's ever found a real one. But if it was real, that's how it would work. But anyways, I don't care about this part. I care about this part, about the memories and the present. How big is the present? I have no freaking idea. But either possible answer doesn't seem to make sense. And this is a idiotic way of making sense out of it. It's a stretch that this would be it, but it has a little bit of sense to it. That the present, our now, is not instantaneous. It takes an amount of time. It could be milliseconds in the past, or even years in the past, drawing from previous past consciousness to make sense of the now. I don't know, it's a crazy idea. It's a dumb idea. It has nothing to do with reality, I'm sure. But I thought it was an interesting idea. So I guess that's it.